Well, I've finally done it. I've hit a new low on this channel with me doing this review. There goes my street cred. Hi people and hello my Chilligan kind of crew, it's Chilly here, the man of bitches iron from my eyes, doing a 5-minute review on Falling in Reverse's newest album, Popular Monster. Falling in Reverse has a saucy history within the metal community, and if you are interested, I have an episode out now discussing controversial artists, which of course includes Ronnie, and it is out now. As for this new album of his, the fifth by the band and the first in over 7 years, well, there was a lot of build up to it, and it's certainly interesting to see that this album got delayed like some AAA rated video game. This is despite the fact that over half the album had been released as singles prior to the release date. All up, there were 7 singles released from an album with 11 tracks. So does this record quantify as a compilation record with a new EP attached to it? Let's discuss.
Irreplaceable, undeniably inspirational. I lose everything
If I heard any singles prior to this intended playthrough of this album, then I certainly don't recall them. In fact, the first single, Popular Monster, was released before this channel was even created, all the way back in 2019, and is also the last song to feature Derek Jones before his death in 2020. And I don't mind this song. It only serves as a strong message for the issues that Ronnie has faced in his life, and this will certainly be a reoccurring motif on this album, so I hope you enjoyed these types of lyrics. As for my first recollection, well, it had to go to the track All My Life. I have to say, this is the worst track off the record. This song features Jelly Roll, who also appears on Post Malone's new album as a guest musician, which was released on the same day, and both of these tracks are in the vein of country rock, except with Post Malone, he stays true to the cause, while Falling in Reverse can barely retain the style of music for the duration of the song. This is just an ugly track that feels like it was mashed together in post-production for the sake of perhaps a perverse sense of musical direction. The music is so basic and feels like it was written by Good Charlotte, and I just don't care for this song. In fact, when I first heard it, I had to stop halfway through and question just what the fuck I was listening to. I mean, how would the rest of this album sound considering what this is? Answer: nothing like it. So then why bother trying this style of music and applying it to this record? This song is a huge skid mark on this record in a long list of other skid marks. I will say though, the second track I heard, Ronald, was great, and I will defend this track. It has been the one and only true ray of light from this record, but perhaps the saving grace for this song was Tech N9ne and how they achieved a song similar in vein to his previous track, Wither, which featured Corey Taylor. Unfortunately, this trend will not continue for the remainder of this album, as many other songs fall into a mixed convolution of weirdly emphasized rap lyrics with trap beats, such as on Voices in My Head, to music that is literally written for Wrestlers entrance music that's found with Zombified, and culminating with Watch the World Burn, that appears to fall into common territory that has been found on various other arena core bands, except any one of them could have been done better. It's just a blatant rip-off at the end of the day of Lorna Shore, let's all admit it. The majority of this record seems to have lyrics based around victimhood mentality. As for the other lyrics on this record, well, if you were to tweet them for example, I think you would find yourself on an FBI watch list. All up, it's a 37-minute affair of woe is me, but it's not my fault, and even though it's a shorter affair, it's still rather dull and tedious to play through. It feels longer than it does, and it's a chore to get through. Okay, you have told us what issues that you are facing, but what are you doing to try and overcome them? That's the kind of character growth that I want to see, but instead, Ronnie has settled for playing the villain in his story. And we can tell this in regards to this album cover, which of course utilizes his mugshot. You're certainly no Johnny Cash, you're definitely not Tupac, so why did you do this? Especially if you're trying to turn the corner. I guess he is playing the villain in his story for either the hate bait or some kind of reaction while writing songs that musically all follow a very similar blueprint of start with genre X and after 3/4 of the song have one of those generic metalcore breakdowns. It's all so commonplace and yet feels like a record that forgot to take its Ritalin for 5 weeks in a row. The levels of genre swapping is jarring and is only alleviated when the guest vocalists appear to break up the monotony of Ronnie's rapping, which feels as flat as water left on the table. There is no flow within this frontman, but luckily we have the likes of Tech N9ne and Alex Terrible to bring at least one good song to the mix. But not all songs are terrible, or even follow the same storyline, and one of those that stray the path is the track Trigger Warning. And I have to say, this isn't a bad song, although I swear it's a variant of another track that I can't think of right this moment.
kiss it goodbye. Stay down or fall.
As for the arse end of this record, we find ourselves with No Fear. Wasn't this a clothing company?
I'm the exorcist of music, 'cause I got so many fucking heads spinning, it's stupid.
Well, the levels of trap on here feel as cheesy as that brand too, and no, the additional choir sections do not add to this song. Now let's talk about the last song. You know the one I'm about to say. There are covers of songs that are better than the original. There are covers that do a decent job. And then there are covers that are absolutely trash, and this version falls into the last category. The levels of travesty on this version are abhorrent. The first and foremost is how they have taken this angsty and powerful song and tried to make a viral version in vain to The Sound of Silence when it was covered by David Draymond, but must have forgotten that Ronnie is not a talented vocalist like David is. The amount of auto-tune that is contained on this track to make the vocals try and sound decent is so blatantly obvious that it may as well be like wearing a ghillie suit in the snow made out of reflective clothing that is coloured fluoro pink. I can only imagine the looks on the faces of the producers once the vocals were done. Possibly in one take too, because he couldn't be trying it again. And then the producers just look at each other with a look that says, call your family because this is going to be a long night, to try and salvage whatever the this was. To me, this song sounds like AI was asked to write a cover song for There I Ruined It, and then vomited this piece of audio out of its binary zero hole before bursting into flames to save itself from the dignity of what it unleashed. Ultimately, I will say that Limp Bizkit's version of Behind Blue Eyes cops a lot of flack for what it did, but I'm calling it right now. This right here is the worst cover I have ever heard, and I never thought on my 5-minute review of Papa Roach and their last album that I would find myself defending them so vehemently. There is a noteworthy section I should add that Papa Roach actually approved of this song, calling it an amazing cover. Man, you guys must be deaf. You took the only good thing that they have produced and taken a giant steamy shit on it. My biggest regret is now there is a generation who is hearing this song for the first time and it has to be this version. Fuck you for doing that. Overall, I'll give this album a score of 1,000,000 chilies, with my favourite tracks being Trigger Warning and Ronald. This album certainly is deserving of its fair share of criticism due to the unfocused efforts, but it cannot be ignored that there are certainly some songs on here that are actually pretty good. And while I will never be revisiting this record, I wouldn't mind hearing Ronald or Trigger Warning if it came on the radio. But considering I don't listen to that medium, then I guess that narrows down my airplay with anything related to this record. Fuck it, no big loss anyway. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.